Hi students, I am Dr. Pratheepa here. I just brief video about the development of the face. When we read about the development of the face, we need to know there are 6 processes. Okay, number 1 is a frontonasal process, the second was the maxillary process, and the third one is the mandibular process. So there are totally 6 processes. Now we'll see what happens in this. Can you see there is accumulation of cells in the frontonasal area? This is frontal process. Here is the nasal process. The accumulation of cells are called as nasal placode. In the middle of the nasal placode, there is a pit formation. When the pit is very deep, okay, accumulation of cells means the ectodermal cells. Okay, it gets accumulated, so it is called as nasal placode. In the placode means there is a elevation. When there is elevation, the next step will be there is a pit formation. If there is a pit formation, both the sides the cells will be accumulated and they form some projection over here. The projection is called as medial side, it is called as medial nasal process, and the lateral side it is called as lateral nasal process. Now the next step happens. What happens? So we have got two nasal processes, medial and the lateral. The middle it is called as nasal pit. Okay, and this is the mouth area that is called as stomatia. And then next thing is the medial nasal process, they came here. Both of them they come and they are going to merge. In the meantime, the maxillary process also it comes and it joins with it. So two maxillary process and the medial nasal process they join together and forms the upper lip. Okay, now what happens? Superficially the outer part of the upper lip is formed, but deep also these two nasal processes they meet. So inside that what happens? It forms three important segments. That is called, the major segment is called intermaxillary segment. So this area you can see nicely the projections. This is the nasal pit. See both the sides the processes being enlarged. This is called the medial nasal process. This is called the lateral nasal process. Now the maxillary process, this is the opening for the future mouth. Okay, that is called stomatodeum or stomatium. So the maxillary process comes here and it joins and merges with the medial nasal process, and I said it forms the upper lip, and deep inside it forms a segment called as intermaxillary segment. The intermaxillary segment will be developed into a philtrum of the upper lip. So philtrum is in the middle of the upper lip, will be having a triangular area that is called the philtrum of upper lip, and deep inside it forms a primary palate. Okay, primary palate means the first part of the palate, it is called as primary palate. Okay, see, look at this. This is called the intermaxillary segment. They give rise to the primary palate. This is the palate, primary palate, and upper 4 incisor teeth. Alveolar process for the upper 4 incisor teeth and philtrum of the upper lip. So what are the things formed from the intermaxillary segment? Number 1 is philtrum of upper lip. Number 2 is the 4 upper incisor teeth, and then number 3 is primary palate. These 3 things are being formed from the intermaxillary segment. Finished. So the medial nasal process and the maxillary process story got over. Now we'll come to the lateral nasal process. See, this is the lateral nasal process and the maxillary process, but you could see a nice groove in between that is called as nasolacrimal groove, because this is your optic placode. It means future eyes. So this is optic placode. So this groove, the ectodermal cells in the groove, they form a card like thing. Card means it's like a pin. There is a card like structure being formed, and later on this card like structure will be canalized. Canalized means there is a hole inside that, and they will be formed as a duct. That duct is named as nasolacrimal duct. In future what happens, then after the formation of the duct, this lateral nasal process merges with the maxillary process. So the entire thing will be closed. Okay, and then the last one is the mandibular process. Both the sides mandibular process they join together and forms the lower lip. It's very simple. This will form the frontal bone and the frontal process, right? So it forms the frontal bone and the root of the nose. So rest everything we have formed, and the maxillary process forms the cheek. Okay, so these are the things we are supposed to write. So the frontonasal process, it forms the forehead, bridge of the nose, and medial and lateral nasal process I have told you. Maxillary will form the cheek and the lateral portion of the upper lip, and medial nasal process philtrum of the upper lip and the crest and tip of the nose. Lateral nasal processes alone they form the ala of the nose. Okay, lateral nasal process they form the ala of the nose also. Okay, they form the ala of the nose. What is ala of the nose? Okay, this area is called the ala of the nose. So the frontal nasal process forms the forehead and the bridge of the nose, and the medial nasal process forms the philtrum of the upper lip and upper lip area, and the lateral nasal process alone forms the layer of the nose, and the maxillary process forms the cheek and lateral part of the lip, and mandibular process forms the lower lip. That's all over. So if there is any failure in this, what will happen? Failure of fusion of the medial nasal process with the maxillary process, again you will be having a cleft. It means there is irregular fusion, so it leads to the cleft lip. And the same time, if there is a failure of fusion of the, we'll see to that. Okay, look at this. Okay, see, look, failure of fusion of the medial nasal process with the maxillary process, you can see the cleft lip. Understand? Okay, you can nicely see the cleft lip. And here I said no failure of fusion of the lateral nasal process with the maxillary process. The nasolacrimal duct is intact and it is not closed. So this is called as oblique cleft lip. This will be asked mostly in MCQ. So the lateral nasal process failure with the maxillary process forms the oblique cleft lip. This is a normal cleft lip. This is called the oblique cleft lip because the nasolacrimal duct is exposed. Understand? And then next I'll move on to the palate process, formation of the palate. Okay, here from the maxillary process there are two shelves. Okay, this is called as palatine shelves. Initially it will be above, then later on below, then later on during development it goes above the tongue and they join together and forms the palate. That palate is called as secondary palate because already primitive palate, primary palate we have already got in the from the intermaxillary segment, we have already got the primary palate. So this fused palatine shelves they form the secondary palate. That's all about the palate. Okay, if there is failure of fusion of the primary and secondary palate, he will be having the cleft palate. Understand? So this baby can see nicely the cleft palate. Look at this. See, failure of fusion of the two palatine shelves, otherwise failure of fusion of the primary with the secondary palate. So this is called as cleft palate. So these two anomalies are very important. Thank you.